All right, we're live. Like I said, I guess I will start things off. This is the first podcast that we've recorded in a little over a year. My name's Shawn. Sitting in front of me is Trent.
Call me Jordan.
To my right is Jordan. Basically, we're just going to be doing a little bit of a recap, touching base about this, everything that we have missed and not had an opportunity to talk over in the last year. Firstly, we're just going to discuss what has changed in our personal lives, and then we will jump directly into
just whatever we're going to do.
Exactly. So firstly, I would like to say I'm not living in my crowded ass apartment anymore. I have a nice house with roommates that are pretty nice. Trent, he's living with me as well, and Jordan is actually planning on moving in at some point in the future. Should be sometime soon. Other than that, my life's pretty much the same. I have the same job, same car. I got a kitten, but that's not really that interesting. So, Trent, go ahead.
All right. Well, I moved in with Shawn after being at college for a year and living there, and just working and being in school. I realized pretty soon that I had to just team up with other people to survive, because at college, working paycheck to paycheck was totally fucking untenable. So now I'm just basically doing what I usually do, but living with Shawn now.
And I'm just making money at the in the end of the world.
Oh yeah, I got Jordan a job, so
Boy.
that's also something that's happened.
Oh, I also went vegan since the last time we did a podcast.
Yes, that is true. We we make fun of him for being vegan.
So now we have an ultra liberal, and obviously Shawn and I are far right conservatives.
Yeah, see, I voted for Trump, so you guys need to know who you're supporting here.
Look, I still support Cruz.
No, that's complete horseshit. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot that's happened in the last year. I've just been super busy personally, so just not in the best headspace to sit and record and talk about how terrible the world is. So now we're gonna jump back into it. Something that Jordan mentioned already that I would like to touch base upon is the fact that Mac Miller and XXXTentacion have passed away since our last recording. I would just like to send them my condolences. Both of those people are very talented artists, and the fact that they passed away so young it's very detrimental.
Truly a loss to this entire species.
Exactly. Those
couldn't
are
find
just
another
two
one of those
people that are very artistic and had a lot of value, and I don't think that anybody will be able to recreate the complexity of the art and everything that they made. That didn't mean to start off on such a negative note.
Yeah, so
let's see what else has started.
Let's see if we can also get into a little bit of news and politics here. So we were talking earlier about an article from Business Insider that was published. Let's see here. Today, 3 hours ago. The headline is "More than 1/3 of voters want Bernie Sanders to drop out of the 2020 presidential race," poll shows. Now, before you say anything, I'm going to scroll down a little further in the article just to show you the kind of tactics the media uses. Here, this is one of the first paragraphs. According to a new poll from USA Today and Suffolk University, 35% of respondents said Sanders should drop out, compared with 40% who were excited about his candidacy, 21% with no opinion, and 4% who had never heard of him. Now, I want you to think for a fact about the second that the number of people who said they were excited about his candidacy is 5% greater than the number of respondents which the headline was based on.
And that's the headline. That is the one line that you're supposed to see that catches your attention.
So most people, they aren't going to click on that article and read it. They're going to look at the headline and the headline only.
Yeah, and they're just going to spread it to people who think like them and won't question what they're sending to them.
And this is exactly the kind of shit why people don't trust the media like they did in this country
like
decades
even
ago.
30 years ago.
Even
It was
30
still
years
bad. I would say, honestly,
It's
ever since the
always
media has
been-
existed, it's been bad.
always been bad, but there was at least trust there.
It just got increasingly
And
worse.
Now they're just blatantly lying.
Honestly,
well, not lying, but just, misrepresenting, really.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's a perfect segue for what I was going to say next, which is basically if people thought the media was corrupt last year or any time before that, it has just gotten significantly worse because of the use of neural networks and things are basically worded or phrased in such a way to either trick you or to change your mind or to misrepresent information in an article. So, like that was a prime example. 33% of voters don't support Bernie Sanders or whatever it was. That doesn't make sense because then you're saying the other 2/3, the majority of voters, either are indifferent to him or support him.
Yeah.
So how is that news?
That's what I mean.
It just doesn't make sense.
The combined numbers, the 61% of people who said they either had no opinion or were excited about his candidacy. I don't. It is unfathomable to me that they would rather report a third of voters wanting him to drop out than 40% of voters being really excited about his candidacy.
Exactly. It makes no sense. It's completely ass backwards.
Yeah, we're not even in the general election yet, and already 40% of voters
are excited about that.
Are excited about it. Like, okay, so you're telling me if he can pick up a 10% margin, then he can solidly win the popular vote at least.
Exactly.
And
it's not like it.
And how many are you telling me that 10% of people are going to vote for Trump over Bernie? No, fuck it.
I mean, I hope not. I really hope not. But we'll have to see.
I mean, who knows?
I understand why people were hesitant to vote for Hillary over Trump. Just because of the fact that I said this to Jordan earlier, and I think it's a perfect analogy. I think the Trump and Hillary, the whole race between them, was the perfect analogy to the South Park giant turd versus a douche sandwich argument. Because it really just capitalizes on the fact that you hate both of them. Like, you absolutely hate both of them. At least me, and maybe not everybody.
I would say most people.
Yeah, I would say the average person probably either had no idea why those two people are so heinous or just didn't like either of them. And you basically have to pick the lesser of two evils. And when there's all this information out backing Trump and all this information attacking Hillary for the emails and all the whole scandal that went down, there was just a lot of different variables that played into that shit. And I feel like I honestly feel like the whole thing was kind of manipulated based on people's insecurities.
Well, we know that Trump worked with like certain information firms to guide like neural networks in his favor. Neural networks that controlled pages you would see on Facebook or Instagram, targeted ads like that. And like you were saying earlier, like the neural networks have just gotten out of control. Like I would say at this point, most of what we were seeing is probably barely even created by a human being. Like,
for anybody that doesn't know, a neural network is it's literally just an algorithm that's so complex that it
mimics a brain neural network.
Yeah, it's like a neuron. It's essentially a simulated brain.
It's a simulated neuron, but yeah.
What's shitty is that the most common things that neural networks are used for right now is advertising, and they just specifically place things in certain places and manipulate human psychology in such a way to influence your decisions even outside of the advertisement.
Yeah. They just use advanced propaganda, like advertisement techniques, propaganda techniques.
Which things like that should be illegal because, I mean, I might have to fact check myself on this, but I'm pretty sure Coca-Cola and all those other big businesses, back when movie theaters first started becoming a thing, they used to slide in like ads between the frames of the movie.
I'm sure they did.
It would send you subliminal messages
sure they did.
to go buy snacks and shit, and that shit had to be outlawed because of the fact that you're fucking with people's psychology, to a point where you can't even control that shit.
And you're saying that eventually, once neural networks are advanced enough, it'll be the exact same thing.
Yeah,
I think it's already
the exact same thing, but it'll be to the point where you're being manipulated and you don't even know it.
I think that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
and I think social media is a perfect example.
They hire the
of
same people who make slot machines in Vegas.
If you want to see the epitome of how a neural network lures you in and like makes it to where you just can't leave, go to the Snapchat Explore page. If you don't have Snapchat, download the app, make an account, and scroll to the right and go to the Explore page and scroll down and just look at all the nonsense that they put in there to catch your eye and get you thinking about shit that is not important at all. It's disgusting.
Instagram is also a prime example.
Yeah, Instagram's probably the worst about it. There was actually a study that showed that if you turned your phone on black and white mode, you'll use it like half as much. Like, there's actually something to the idea that, like, we're just apes who are attracted to shiny objects and colors.
We're not saying any of this is factual. We're not citing.
Well, that is a study. I don't know the name of the study, but I do know it was an actual.
So if anybody would like to fact check us, please do so.
You should always fact check everything anyway.
Exactly.
You should always fact check everything you see online, especially those.
That's something that I will let you know. I see shit and I forget shit a lot. So if I'm ever saying something that I saw a long time ago, something that I don't have the thing to reference right in front of me, Chances are I'm probably wrong.
Yeah, so even though we want you guys as fans of a political and commentary podcast, I just want to let you guys know we're absolutely terrible political and commentary. So, I mean, obviously,
And we're humans, and we're fucking stupid. And I know that I've been wrong numerous times when it comes to politics and economics and things that I've argued with different people with throughout the past. And even people that I disagree with have proved me wrong. So I'm always open to suggestions, fact checking, any kind of challenge to what we're saying, basically.
Yeah.
I'm completely open to it.
While we're on the topic of fact checking, we should talk about fact checking the claims made by the U.S. military recently that a drone was downed
in
flying
Iran,
in international airspace.
And it actually was over just a body of water, right? An international body of water.
Yes, it was over a body of water, the Strait of Hormuz.
I didn't hear about that.
It was a spy plane that cost about $220 million, built by Boeing.
Yep.
It was.
Glad I paid for that.
Yeah, did not have
subsidies.
any ordnance on it, but it was a pretty high-tech piece of spyware that they had, obviously flying in around, at least around Iran. There was some disputed claims. The Iranians, after they had shot it down, they said a couple things. They said, one, we gave a 10-minute warning and said that if you're not out of here in 10 minutes, we're shooting you down. And two, they said the drone was in their airspace.
So that's two very justifiable reasons to take an unmanned plane down.
Right.
That seems pretty reasonable.
If
they gave you a warning and you're in restricted airspace, chances are you're going to get shot down. I mean, that's pretty reasonable.
There's a second part to this, though. Additionally, Iran said there was a manned plane, and they could tell it was manned, so they didn't shoot it. So they didn't kill anyone, and they knew they didn't kill anyone. And also, U.S. Central Command released a statement saying that the drone was not in Iranian airspace, but was in international airspace.
Yikes! So,
for sure. So it's essentially the word of the Iranian military versus the word of the U.S. military.
Yeah. And who's richer?
And of course, the United States citizens are they're not going to be willing to listen to facts because most people are just pro-military, pro-gun.
We have a military culture in this country.
Yeah, we just have like this sense of people have this sense of like nationalism that they feel they need to fucking have, and I just don't.
I've never understood it.
I don't understand it.
I mean, I did understand it, but I was manipulated into believing it.
If you're not hurting anybody, then obviously do whatever you want. But I would say that believing in violence and believing in having as big of a military as we do is pretty destructive. Just for the species.
10 times bigger, or what was it? 3 times bigger than the last 10 countries combined.
The last 9 at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's honestly just sickening because
and most of those are our allies.
But it's just really interesting because even people are obviously still going to take sides with the U.S. military. They're still going to say, "Oh, well, we believe our military over their military."
And I'm not even necessarily saying that I agree with the Iranian military.
Oh, not at all.
At all. Like, don't get that twisted by any means. What I'm saying is that if the Iranian government is not bullshitting and saying that they were in their airspace and they did give them a warning about if that actually is true, then it would make sense for it to get shot down. And then the fact that it's a manned plane, that makes it even more sense why they couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
So I just don't.
I just think to make a perfect conclusion about it, what you have to do is you have to consider if the tables were turned. If you had an Iranian jet flying around in the Gulf of Mexico, in like around Florida or something, what would the U.S. military do?
Shoot it down.
They'd probably shoot it down.
So if you want to treat people fairly, simply examine it from an altered perspective, and it's funny. It's funny how we just treat people differently based on what country they're from.
All I'm saying, there's just no way that you can be in the Strait of Hormuz, right on Iran's border, and say that they're the ones pressing up on you. That argument just isn't going to fly.
It's like that blockade we put around Yemen, causing that starvation to happen.
Right. But the reason I brought that up is because there's also an article here that says the next day after that, the U.S. has hit Iran with crippling cyber attacks and missile launch sites. They attacked computer networks that controlled missile launches.
They just wanted an excuse, bro.
They had to get a green light from the president to do this.
The president.
A fucking joke. That's all that is. It's just a fucking joke.
Oh, they've taken down radar facilities and missile batteries. If I had to guess, I'd say they're probably going to try sending more drones. Are we at war with Iran? Like,
I think we've been at war with Iran for like
way longer than people would like
this
to
is
admit.
Yeah.
I mean, already we've been forcing our oil exports to zero. We've been trying to do regime change by collapsing their economy. We've been trying to get our allies to stop doing business with them.
Yeah.
We're just, I mean, if you believe in the free market, there's no way you can look at that and say, oh yeah, throw sanctions on there.
Mm. Who's to say the war on terror wasn't just a continuation of the Cold War into a hot one? War on Terror is actually the Third World War.
The War on Terror is simply an
The Third
excuse
World
for the
War.
United States to do empire, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just to play some fucking...
To play the world policeman, go wherever they want, jack natural resources, and just assert the fucking
Like that $1 trillion
imperial
in
right
oil
of the United States all
in
over
Afghanistan.
the globe. Yeah, the $7 trillion spent in Iraq, the $2 trillion spent in Afghanistan, and Flint still doesn't have clean water.
And we're finding that actually a lot of states in the United States don't have clean water, not
Yes,
just Michigan.
Also,
And,
the climate crisis is just way worse than we thought. Pollution's just
Like
way
3
worse
times
than we
worse,
thought.
according to one study that was done.
Just to interject,
Actually, I think it was the Trump study.
water is a pretty, it's a pretty valuable resource. What did you say? It only takes like 10 days for governments to collapse without water,
Yeah.
or something
And then,
about that range.
what was it, 2 billion tons of ice melted in a week?
Yes, we lost a tons of ice in Greenland. Billions of tons of ice.
In a week?
The average temperature, it's 40 degrees above the average temperature
50%
there.
of insects
Or at
are
least it
endangered.
was a few days ago.
Basically, we're fucked. That's it. That's
Well,
all
unless we
it
invent
comes down to.
nanotechnology.
We're fucked.
We just need Tony Stark.
We don't have the technology to reverse climate change, and we don't have the technology to save what little of our species is even left.
I mean, I'm sure there are people working
So-
around the clock on this shit.
Our two options
We just need to
are
fund them.
to save the planet or to build a device that can transport us away from the planet.
Yeah.
And
we're not
neither
doing
of those
the last
things.
one.
Neither of those things are working right
So
now.
we're just going to have to make nanobots that can successfully terraform an atmosphere.
And even then, like
They need to work perfectly within 10 years.
yeah, that's kind of bad.
I think Trump is gaslighting Iran at this point.
Yeah, I think it's about to start, and that's unfortunate.
I think he's going to keep doing.
When 2020 comes,
Yeah, he's going
to
to
do
keep.
Bush.
He's going to keep approving strikes on them, and he's going to. But his rhetoric is going to come off as friendly. He's going to act like he's trying to make peace.
Bush was like,
Hear me now, quote me later.
Yeah. Hey, I honestly am not disagreeing with that.
Weapons of mass destruction.
I think that's a reasonable hypothesis because of the fact that nobody's like he's not going to come out and say that he directly wants to go to war with them. But if he can play the same like two-faced, like what's the word I'm looking for here? Like the same story that the last 3 presidents have been saying about the Middle East, which is, oh, we want peace, we want peace.
we're doing it to liberate the people.
Yeah, we're doing it to give them freedom.
We're going to do it to
how would
liberate
you
the
call
people.
it what the fuck it is, and like you're just massacring civilians for oil.
At a certain point, yeah. I mean, if your stated
When you're
goal,
drone striking hundreds of
The
thousands
people
of
of
people
Libya
a year,
have been liberated.
That literally,
thing
Even though
is-
the African slave trade is back.
and that's what pisses me off because people think that
Like,
there's like a huge difference between Trump and Obama when Obama's saying the same things that Trump are about to be saying or is about to be
Obama.
saying.
Trump- mean tweets.
Obama actually made several of the Bush tax cuts permanent.
Exactly.
He was clearly not. He was the best Republican president this country ever had.
Dodd-Frank. It's funny how things are like disguised as like heroic, but in reality they're just a Trojan horse of terrible policy designed to help the rich.
In a perfect world, I would consider anybody that does war crimes like a heinous criminal. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
They wouldn't.
No matter
They
who it
wouldn't be
is.
the leader of the free world. Like it doesn't make sense that just because this person has this seat of power and that they can do anything that they want because they are the leader of the free world. Why the fuck should they be allowed to kill innocent people over in some country that's not theirs because they think it's for the better of, like...
It's funny that like
They don't, the better of what? I don't even know what they
And-
say.
we've never actually declared war on so many of these wars on terror. Like, we've never actually had Congress to formally declare war, which is something that's required in the Constitution. It's just been the president and executive branch decides to drone strike
The same Constitution that every fucking
conservative
person...
and center-right person supposedly worships.
Yeah, like, if you're that obsessed with the Constitution, you would think that you would make your Congress follow the fucking Constitution. Like,
Yeah.
what? I just...
So
there's
anyone,
no-
I guess the best thing to get from this is that anyone trusting the system at this point is just either
Delusional.
ignorant or stupid.
Delusional, I would say, is the
Delusional.
perfect word for it.
Yeah.
Because there's just no excuse. Just
There's just too much evidence against it. And
just open your phone, go to whatever fucking news source you want, and try to read the first article that pops up, and tell me that it's not trying to brainwash you.
Yeah. Tell me that it's not trying to omit facts. Tell me that it's not trying to skew statistics.
That's all.
It's all it's doing. It's just an advanced form of propaganda, an advanced form of advertising.
I mean, it's not even advanced yet, but soon it'll be an advanced form of brainwash.
Yeah.
And it's going to be bad when it gets to the point where political ads are manipulating people like neural networks are, which they already are starting to do.
I think
there are neural networks that make and post bot accounts on Instagram for Donald Trump to lobby people, like to get people on his side, essentially.
Right.
They work perfectly.
They work perfectly. They make memes. They automatically post for themselves. They buy or simulate a certain amount of followers. You can go on there and type in Trump and probably find thousands of bot profiles right now.
It's just
that are doing one thing, and that's brainwashing people.
Yeah, it's quite bad. And neural networks were first invented in 2012, so they've had 7 years to evolve, and they evolve much faster than a human brain.
Oh, and you know the people that were mainly developing that, which is Google. Guess what they did? They went ahead and sold the fucking rights to that to the United States government. So that's great. Any research or anything that you want to know about neural networks, you just can't know. You have no access to it, and we won't ever.
It's all patented, and so we can't really know the information because they choose to keep it a secret so they can stay cornering the market.
Exactly. It's pathetic, honestly.
Quote unquote free market tactics, when in reality it's just bullying.
It honestly should really be much simpler, because I think that neural networks, if they were used correctly, I think that they could be a stepping stone to what actually saves us from our inevitable death from the fucking sun.
They would just be like the next neocortex.
Exactly.
Like they would be to our neocortex what our neocortex is to like the midbrain.
Exactly.
Like it would literally just raise our consciousness so much.
Because people underestimate the ability of
technology. The tendency of it to accelerate, not to go linear when it evolves.
Exactly. It's an exponential curve.
Yeah.
Like the rate at which technology...
Well, at least Moore's law is, which describes the advancement of microtransistors. And Moore's law does have a limit to it, but because we are starting to make breakthroughs in quantum computing, Moore's law could actually seem to continue almost miraculously. So it's almost as if this procession of technology is like... Obviously, I'm not the kind of person to believe in something being meant to happen, but there's a certain kind of funniness to the patterns.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a huge coincidence.
There's definitely like a pivotal moment going on here. There's definitely something going on.
Exactly, it's such a big coincidence that you just have to sit back and think like, damn, is this supposed to happen? Like, is this the next step, and what is going to get us to the singularity?
Yeah.
Which you're going to hear me say that a lot. The singularity is obviously something that is
conjecture.
Yeah, it's complete conjecture. It's not based in fact. It's just something that I think that if technology keeps expanding at the rate that it does, or the rate that it is today, that we are eventually going to get to the point where we are technology, and technology is us. It would be... I sound stupid trying to explain it to you in a matter of 30 seconds, but we'll talk about it more. And
there's a really easy way to explain it. I mean, like, we already are one with our phones. It's just that, like, instead of our brain waves propagating to the... Like, if you imagine our phone being basically another area of the brain, the way we communicate to it isn't through neurons, it's through our fingers. So that's just limited. But one day, we'll be able to communicate with technology through neurons. And that will probably come to be because of neural network technology and because of brain scan technology and things that are going on right now.
What he's saying is that essentially we're going to get to a point, well, if we don't go extinct, we will eventually get to a point
we're already a part of it. We're just about to become one with it.
Exactly. We're going to have technology where essentially your brain is uploaded to the internet, and you can surf the internet, you can do anything with your brain that you were previously able to do with a computer. And it would cut out what he said. You use your fingers and your eyes.
Yeah, it's a bandwidth problem.
Exactly.
Really, ultimately. That's what Elon Musk said anyway.
It just cuts out the middleman. You're getting the information instantly to your brain. So there's no... It's honestly... It would be perfect.
So I think that would be the solution to all these problems.
But, I mean realistically, I doubt that shit will happen in our lifetime.
I doubt that things...
I hope it would be cool if it did. I would love to be able to upload myself to the internet, but
yeah, that's my goal.
I would say we're probably maybe 20, 25 years.
I would say most scientists put the singularity at around 2050, but Ray Kurzweil, who's the head engineer at Google, or one of the head engineers at Google,
who also developed, he's one of the main people that worked on neural networks.
Yeah, he is, and he thinks the singularity is going to happen around 2030. So he thinks about 10 years, which is coincidentally the amount of time we have before climate change starts to become substantial.
Very detrimental.
Very substantial.
Right. Here's a tweet from Ro Khanna. Since 1987, when adjusting for inflation, the percent increase in tuition costs at public universities is 183%. Tuition costs at private universities, 142%. Minimum wage, 20%. Early career salaries, 3%. He says, this is student debt crisis in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, we know the student debt crisis is pretty much, isn't it the worst loan crisis in human history so far?
Let's look.
Or at least American history.
While you guys are figuring that
$1 trillion.
I found something that I wanted to just touch upon. It's not anything to do with politics, and it's honestly completely off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that the popularity of oil pens and dab cartridges have kind of skyrocketed in the last year. It's something that we haven't even really had a chance to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going around, a lot of news going around about pesticides being found in them, and the oil in the pens not being, it's being falsely advertised. And it's basically, right here's a perfect example. Some dank vapes are essentially, they're essentially fake cartridges with, like, it has real dab oil in them, but it's not the product that they're advertising on the package.
Man.
So, essentially what that means is that anytime you're buying a dab pen or a dab cartridge from the black market, you are essentially you're essentially playing. It's just a gamble because you have no idea, even if it's somebody that you've been buying from for however many years or however close you are to that person. If they are not buying it from a dispensary, you have absolutely no way to verify if there are pesticides or if the THC in that pen is testing at what they're advertising it for.
Right.
So, the reason I even chose to bring this up is because I just see a lot of popularity in dab pens and dab cartridges rising, and I think that people should be, they should at least just be conscious of what they're putting in their body and what they're going to be inhaling, because your lungs are really fragile, and I would hate to see somebody 10 years from now have some new form of fucking cancer or something because they only smoke dab pens. I think what people should do is, until legalization rolls in, I think that you should just be skeptical when buying dab cartridges, and to always at least ask the person where they're getting the cartridges from, and if they're verifiably what they say they are on the package. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I have to say about that topic.
It's a pretty good health. I mean, it's definitely a pretty good health concern.
It's just something because a lot of people.
So many people are using those.
So many people are using those. I see people, even older generations.
It's kind of scary.
Even older generations are using it, and I know I probably sound like every person that was against vaping when vaping first came around, because we still don't understand the long-term effects of just vaping nicotine. But still, it's just complete conjecture. I just think that people should be careful because there's absolutely no way to prove who is putting pesticides in that, or even if something was to happen to you and you do have health issues down the line, it could just very easily ruin the rest of your life just because you bought a fake or counterfeit cartridge.
Right.
I can't wait to have like different segments like later in the podcast development.
Yeah. I think because honestly, we're just kind of freeballing right now.
This is freestyle.
At this point, I would like to. Or not at this point, but at some point down the line, I would like to set it up to where we have segments. Maybe do a couple minutes politics, couple minutes random shit. We'll wrap it up with just shit that happens in our lives.
Yeah, the podcast is going to be 4 minutes long from now on. 2 minutes of it's going to be the intro.
1 minute's the outro. 30 seconds of it is an introduction.
Us telling you to subscribe.
Well, no, we have the intro, and then we have the introduction, which is where we talk about ourselves for 30 seconds, and then we have the advertisers. So we have to talk about them for 30 seconds, and then
Yeah.
after that, I think that's the whole 4 minutes accounted for.
Yeah.
So here's an article. You
Trent
guys
just
were
didn't give a fuck
you
about
guys
that.
were talking about the student loan debt crisis earlier, so I pulled that up. This is an article from June of last year. It says, according to Make Lemonade, there are more than 44 million borrowers who collectively owe $1.5 trillion in student loan debt in the U.S. alone. The average student in the class of 2016 has $37,000 in student loan debt.
Well,
That's
And of course,
that's
you
the
heard
largest
that
debt crisis
tweet
you've missed?
from.
that's kind of a humbling amount of money.
Of course, relate that back to the tweet from earlier. Tuition costs at public universities are just up over 100%, and people's salaries and wages aren't going up, not even close to the same rate. So it's just totally disproportionate. And if you're entering the workforce with a college degree, you're going to be working for years to get your debt paid off, and that's assuming you can find a job.
so yeah.
Let's take a look at the live debt clock. This is something that I always like to check when I'm bored. Let's see. So, the total amount of debt in the United States is about $73.5 trillion.
Yeah. That's for the national debt.
Yeah, that's national debt. Like
That's all the money that we spent that we didn't have.
Yeah.
And then let's see. This is what I was looking for. Fuck, where is it? I cannot find this fucking info. Oh, here we go. Student loan debt. We're sitting at $1.6 trillion.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay, so when they say 1.6 trillion, it's actually over 1.6 trillion.
Yeah, and as of right now, we're sitting at about. I mean, this is the live debt clock that I'm looking at. It says as personal debt per citizen is sitting at about $59,000.
Yeah,
That's only going to continue to go up.
It's going up as I'm looking at it. It's going up. I mean, that one's going up slow, but the rest of these are just booming. They're just constantly going up. Another interesting thing I saw on here.
Bernie Sanders running for it.
Man.
The median income in the United States is $33,000 a year, and the median price for a new home is $313,000 a year. If that's not a sign that the economy is failing,
Yeah.
I don't know what is.
I mean,
Well, you just have to scrape and save every penny you make for 10 years and not pay tax.
yeah, didn't you know, you fucking liberal? All you have to do is not eat, and then you can have a house.
What, do you
For
think
sure,
a shelter's
for
necessary? I mean, what the fuck you
Yeah,
saying?
dude, you don't need a place to live. Like, who needs that?
Yeah, it's actually just
You got a car.
That's actually
like,
a product that we can price. It's not something you need. It's a product. So we're going to go ahead and make it as expensive as possible because you need it the most.
Because fuck you, that's why.
Basically.
Because we believe in the free market, which is why no one's free.
Yeah, it's free market until you don't have the money to do something.
Free market until 80% of people know exactly how their life is going to turn out.
How many people in this country are living paycheck to paycheck?
Oh, just a few stragglers. I mean, we all know the U.S. economy is perfect in every
What's
way.
the unemployment rate?
It's probably pretty low, but that's not the actual unemployment rate.
From CNBC,
just because
They don't
shitty
record
ass-
the actual-
Yeah, like
nearly
what?
80% of American workers, 78%, say they're living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh.
And that was in 2017. We know since then,
Have no
inflation's
savings?
gone up, wages have gone down.
Oh,
Yeah.
and even if the economy wasn't fucked, let's see, we have the U.S. population is 329 million people, and we have 20.1 million convicted felons.
Yeah, we have
Oh.
more convicted
So-
felons than China.
About
and China has
6% of our
1 point
population.
something billion
Yeah,
people.
little over 6% of our population is either that's not even. They've been convicted. Like they were either
They're in prison.
they're either in jail now or
I mean, yeah,
are
we-
out and are still
That's a little
on
under
papers.
6%. Let me get the exact number
So
here.
basically, all I had to say about that,
Our country is not a free market.
Our country's not a free market, and
It's socialism for the rich.
even if it was a free market, we're still fucked because we're incarcerating people unlawfully
Yeah.
and basically
So-
taking away their only
Yeah.
chances at life.
And taking away the right to
Life.
vote. And making it significantly harder for them to participate in civic life. And then therefore controlling, if you arrest all the people who do drugs that make you see things different, Well, then everyone who sees things different goes to jail.
Exactly. And what's fucked up is that we live in a country where anybody can get a gun, and it's like... The way I look at it is that if you're going to have poor neighborhoods, what do poor neighborhoods create?
Crime.
Okay. And why is crime a thing? It's because they're in a poor neighborhood. Like, they go hand in hand. Those people, they commit crime because they need money, because they live in a poor neighborhood.
Yeah, because they're forced to do it.
Exactly.
Essentially.
So essentially, you put people who have absolutely no money, have absolutely no family with money, and they're staying in a shitty rundown neighborhood. They're committing crimes to do whatever they need to be able to eat. And let's say it's a really dangerous neighborhood. Let's say it's a city in the United States. I can't even think of one off the top of my head. That's
somewhere in Dayton.
somewhere that just has a really bad issue with gun violence. Like, we'll say Chicago, for an example.
Chicago.
Somebody lives there and they grow up their entire life and they have to steal and commit crimes to do whatever they need to do to survive.
Here's
Obviously, whatever, that's perfectly fine. I guess I'm going off tangent here. What I'm saying is that you take away someone's ability to defend themselves with a firearm and then release them from jail back into the same situation that they were in, where everybody else still has firearms. So what is that person left to do? That person is either left to get shot or to illegally get a firearm. And then that's a perfect example of how guns stay in circulation.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how to get more people into the prison system.
Yeah, and it's almost as if it's set up in a certain way
to lower the recidivization rate.
To lower the recidivization rate, and to also generate more money, because I'm pretty sure, doesn't the NRA get funding from private prisons?
Yes.
The NRA gets funding from that. The NRA gets funding from...
Or I believe the NRA funds private prisons. Vice versa. It's one or the other, and regardless...
vice versa. It's just disgusting.
It's a revolving door of corruption.
It's a revolving door of money, is all it is, because the NRA throws money at the prisons, and then the prisons make money from the prisoners, and then the prisons throw the money back to the NRA. So
all I gotta say is,
why would they ever want to stop that? Why would they ever want to not incarcerate innocent people when they can keep making millions of dollars off of it?
Voter suppression.
Exactly.
Voter suppression.
Yeah, that's actually a nice segue into what I have pulled up here. This is an article from the American Enterprise Institute. That's a conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. Here's the headline: The shocking story behind Richard Nixon's war on drugs that targeted blacks and anti-war activists. Below it, there's a graphic showing that male incarceration rates increased almost 5 times between 1970 and 2010, since President Nixon declared the war on drugs in 1971.
So it's almost as if, we're picking and choosing who to throw in jail to arbitrarily depict this war on drugs that's not even an actual war.
Otherwise peaceful Americans being thrown in jail for putting something in their own body that they chose to do.
Yeah, for choosing to have a different way of looking at things.
Exactly.
And another thing is that it's not the easiest thing in the world to get off of those drugs. So even if you were really young and really stupid and made a fucked up decision to do a drug that is highly addictive, instead of throwing that person in a cage just so that way they can think about that drug the entire time they're in there and get out and get high first day out, we should be taking those people and rehabilitating them and getting them help so that way they don't go back on the streets and start getting high again. It's just it's like he said like Jordan said with the prison system. It's the same thing with the war on drugs. It's just a revolving door.
Yeah.
All people do is go to jail for getting high. They get out of jail. They get high. They get caught. They go back to jail. It's an infinite cycle. I know numerous people that I either work with or have worked with that are still caught in the cycle. Even if you try to stay clean, even if you're clean for over a year and you paid off all your court fees and you did everything that you're supposed to do, you still can't get your license. You still have to jump through hoops even to get a job. You still have to jump through hoops even to get a house. You still have to jump through hoops to even get a car. None of that shit makes any sense. Yeah. It's like if you make one mistake when you're young or while something horrible is going on with your life, you're fucked. You go to jail and then you're in the government's sights until you die.
Yeah. Here's some statistics from the National Institute of Justice on recidivism. The Bureau of Justice Statistics studies have found high rates of recidivism among released prisoners, examines the recidivism patterns of former prisoners during a 9-year follow-up period. The researchers found that the 400,000 state prisoners released in 2005 had nearly 2 million arrests during the 9-year period, an average of 5 arrests per released prisoner. 60% of those arrests occurred during years 4 through 9. An estimated 68% of released prisoners were arrested within 3 years, 79% within 6 years, and 83% within 9 years. So if you go to prison, there's an 83% chance that over the course of 9 years, you'll end up back in prison.
And that's not even that's not even pure. That's not even up for debate. That's just statistically how the system works.
Yeah.
So even if you walk on eggshells, even if you were to get out and do everything that you have to and jump through all the hoops that you're supposed to, there's still an 83% chance that you are going to fuck up.
Yeah, that variables will come together to make you fuck up.
Something will happen in order to make you go back to jail.
It's because they want to put in these prisoners a pattern of thinking which just keeps them as prisoners.
Exactly.
And the problem with that, like, we all need to start talking about, like, everybody needs to start talking about this to, like, their family and their friends. Like, this is a very important, like, this is affecting people that I'm sure if you ask someone, they know someone who's been affected by the justice system in the United States.
It's honestly
pretty ridiculous.
It's not
okay.
It's not okay, and it's honestly hard to talk about.
It is hard to talk about.
Anybody that knows me personally knows that I have friends that I'm really close with that are incarcerated, and I just think that the whole system is just corrupt.
Sets people.
It's not even my personal bias at this point. It's just objective fact. Even if it weren't people that I personally knew, I would still feel the same exact way, because I don't think that anybody, regardless of what you have done, should ever be treated as poorly as those prisoners are treated inside the walls. It's disgusting.
It is ridiculous.
They feed them inedible food. They pay them 3 cents an hour, which is less than the minimum wage, which is a violation of the law.
Yeah.
But because they're lesser people, or that's what the government would like you to believe, they can do it. They can get away with that. The correctional officers can beat the fuck out of the prisoners and get away with it because they have no power. The power dynamic in jail and in prisons is fucking disgusting. And anybody that supports that, or anybody that thinks that, oh, well, he should go to jail, like, grow up, please. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think it's just...
It's as simple as that.
I mean, I can understand the need for authority in prisons, but it is a little bit ridiculous, because one person has all the power, the other person has none, and the only difference between them is a badge.
Exactly. So you want to know... Something that is funny is that Peru recently decriminalized all drugs in their country. And they basically, instead of throwing you in jail for drug possession... they would set you up. They would confiscate it from you, obviously, because they can't. Like, it's decriminalized. It's not fully legal. We can't just walk the streets with the shit. But instead of giving you a fine or sending you to jail for the weekend or whatever it is that they want to do, they set you up with an appointment. You go and visit a lawyer. You go and visit a social worker, and you go and visit a doctor. And they sit down and talk to you. And they basically focus on rehabilitating you from your addiction or from the drug that you were using, as opposed to spending a year plus in jail for some fucking drugs. Who's to say that the person that they're throwing in jail for that isn't the next Einstein, and we just don't know? And they're just torturing him. Yeah, it's like you would never know, because you never gave that person a chance past the first mistake that they made. Yeah,
once the first link is broken, the whole chain is. It doesn't matter, like, if one group of people is discriminated against, we're all, like, it affects all of us, no matter what.
I guess to sum that up, I just think that people should try to have at least a little bit more empathy for other people, and if you just have the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes, just do that, even if it's just for a split second. It'll really change your perspective on a lot of things and the way that you look at other people, and it's just, it's sad, honestly. I think about if I was in a situation like that all the time, and I wouldn't know what to do, because you're absolutely powerless. And anybody with an inch of empathy in their body would know that that's not right, and they would know that that's not healthy, and they would know that there has to be a better way. Fuck. I hate talking about prison. Like that shit.
Yeah, that is bad.
That's like one of my least favorite topics.
It affects anyone who lives in like middle America just knows like how bad it is.
Anybody that's had family or friends go to jail just knows that's not something that you want for anybody, no matter how fucked up of a decision they made.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't understand is it's also not. Sometimes getting in trouble or going to jail isn't even. It's not even a decision that you made. You just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people.
And we actually just don't even know yet fully what causes people to make decisions.
Exactly.
So we're just assuming that people have control over their own decisions, which the actual studies done on that topic show that we don't.
Yeah,
they seem to show.
You think that people with mental illness have any control? Well, not.
I don't think anybody has any.
If you think
control.
people with like legitimate mental illness have control over the bizarre shit that they do sometimes, like,
not at all.
It doesn't make sense.
But then that begs the question: what is a normal, quote unquote normal person?
What determines if you're mentally
ill? And then it turns
out
out the thoughts in our brains that cause us to do things actually happen in our subconscious 0.5 seconds before they come into our conscious. So decisions are made before we actually make them.
For sure.
So
that's
I mean, if that's not evidence that free will does not exist and that we need to actually treat the issue of criminality with more soberness, then I don't know. Like that's just, I feel like it's just 1 + 1 = 2 there.
Yeah.
But people are still stuck in like I have a soul.
Yeah.
I want to live forever and I have a soul.
I'm not gonna delve deep into afterlife or souls or any of that, but I just think that people should definitely try to appreciate the life that you have on this earth, because no matter what you believe, there's no factual evidence to back up any sort of afterlife or souls or any of that shit. So regardless, obviously, if that's what you want to believe, that's what you want to believe. We're in the fucking United States, but there is a reason. There should be a reason to enjoy the life that you have while you're here, because there's no guarantee that you're going to be here when you're gone. No matter how strongly you believe in your faith, no matter how much evidence you think you have.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever met anybody that has gone to the afterlife because they're dead. So
yeah, religion sells you on something that's going to happen after you die, so you never get to experience it. And that's I mean, I feel like that should be the first sign that you're actually in a scam, but whatever.
Nobody should be. Nobody should. I don't know. I just don't think people should be falling for that. If you have faith in a higher power, obviously it's perfectly fine. A lot of people do.
I mean, I'm sure there are higher powers.
Exactly.
It makes sense to
feel
depends, something.
It just depends on it, because everybody's
in some sense.
Everybody's definition of a higher power or
it just means something
God
else to everybody.
It's something completely different to everybody,
and that's why it's not really accurate to even talk about it that way.
Exactly.
Because I feel like something that everyone agrees with is more of a fact than something that everyone thinks is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's like a good basis.
That's facts.
So, yeah. Is there any other major topics you guys wanted to...
I mean, if you guys don't have anything else to say, I think I'm pretty much spent.
Yeah, that was a decent-ass rant.
48 minutes of just us shooting the shit.
Pure truth, unquestionable truth.
Unfiltered thoughts from all three of our genius minds. I'm just kidding. These two are a genius. I'm just some normal dude. Yeah, we don't have anything left to talk about. This is going to be... We recorded this on the 22nd of June. So should be uploaded either
every story must have an end,
or within the next day. But yeah, other than that, thanks for listening. We plan on, at least I plan on uploading semi-regularly. What do you guys
trying to?
Would you guys want to shoot for something like bi-weekly or like?
I'm not sure. We'll have to just work it out.
We'll figure it out, and
like we'd have to actually look at our schedules.
We can keep you guys updated in the next episode. But other than that, thanks for listening to us. We'll see you next time.